Hi, it's Tom Strasser again, and I want to share with you today a couple thoughts on God ain't Santa Claus. God ain't Santa Claus. He doesn't bring us all these real nice presents, these gift wrap things to fulfill our wish list that we may create, nor does he keep a list of who's naughty and nice. This God, this wonderful thing, this thing we call a higher power, the supreme source, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever we want to call it, is our Creator Father, for our Father, Mother God that created us, and we are children of this living, loving, divine personality. And that's what I want to talk about because one of the things I want to share with you, one of my events in life that helped me understand so much more about this thing we call God. It was in 1994, and I got a very rare bacteria in my eyes, very rare at that time. And by the time I could get to the hospital and get to the doctors and the specialists, most of my corneas were devoured. The bacteria was devouring my corneas and eating my corneas. It's a terrible thing. By the time I got there, my corneas were going, and I could see was gray and images. I couldn't see anything. I didn't know what was going on, and very painful. And over the next 2 days, I had to sit there and put eye drops in my eye every hour to kill the bacteria, to fight the bacteria. But I was in pain and in fear, terrible fear and anxiety. How was I going to live? How was I going to make a living? What was I going to do if my eyes, I couldn't get my eyesight? I'm blind. So I'm sitting there and I'm praying, oh God, please heal me. Please don't let me be blind. And nothing happened. And then after the second day, I was into the second day and going into the second night, and I remembered some things I'd been taught about prayer. And I completely changed the way I prayed. I started praying for acceptance. Help me to accept that the deepest fiber of my being, down in my very heart, mind, and soul, that my value as a person does not come from my eyesight. My value as a man does not. I can have a life. I can be okay no matter what happens. Help me have that sense of peace and security that I can be okay no matter what happens. I prayed that over the night, throughout the night, and over that night I was filled with such a peace and love and contentment that I absolutely knew I could be all right. I did not know if I was going to see. My eyes were not healed, but something happened in here. Something shifted. And I kept that prayer, and I kept praying that. And over the next 3 months, my eyes healed. My corneas regenerated completely on our own. The medical staff, the doctors, the specialists said it was a miracle. They could not regenerate corneas. They could not do that. And they said a lot of it had to be my attitude. Because after the first few days, according to them, I come in and I was so peaceful. And I was so, I was very peaceful and actually cheerful sometimes. And they knew what I was going through. And they said that my attitude did it. But see, I could not change my attitude. I was in fear. But this taught me so much about this wonderful God, this Creator, that I have a divine source of spiritual power living within me. I have to learn to tap into that source. And when I tap into that source, all sorts of wonderful things happen. I learned a lot about prayer. Because I learned as long as I'm praying from fear and telling God what to do, trying to get him or her or it to align its will with my will, I don't get very good results. But then when I start to shift and start to say, okay, change me, help me fit your will, then I start to get results. Then I can start to see things. I also learned that this thing we call God, the thing that I call God, I am a child of God. That means I have a spiritual DNA, an actual connection to this wonderful infinite source, which gives me a birthright to tremendous resources. I mean, hey, my father, my mother runs the universe. I mean, I have a tremendous power source back here to tap into. And I have to learn, and that's what this life's about, how to learn to tap into that source and let it change me to give me the best life possible here on this planet. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have adversity, doesn't mean I'm not going to have trouble. No, it means that I'm going to go through those things with peace, equanimity, poise, courage, the things that are really important. And I learned that I should never make a long-term decision based while I'm in short-term misery. Never make a long-term decision when I'm in short-term misery. Because I was in misery, I was in pain, and believe me, it got very, very dark. I was sitting there by myself of the night, and it got very, very dark at night. I mean, in my soul. And I mean, where I thought, why should I even live? How can I live like this with the pain and, the uncertainty and the fear and everything? How can I live? And I thought of suicide. And then as I come out of that and regained and my life has changed, I realized that I should never make that long-term decision while I'm in short-term misery. I also realized that what I experienced there is the way that this wonderful thing we call God often works. It's not a burning bush. It's not a big anything. It's just a simple shift in the way I see things. It gives me the opportunity to change, the opportunity to do something different, and then I've got to take the action and implement that opportunity, take advantage of that. But there's something that happens inside of me, and that's what prayer does. See this? How do I came to see this, and I've used this before. This wonderful light bulb. I mean, this is such a thing because this light bulb, it's a light bulb. That's all it is. But the transformation that's possible lets this light bulb change the entire room. If this room was dark, this light bulb can change everything about itself and the light as soon as it changes from that light bulb into a light. See that change? That's the power of transformation that we have inside of us. That's when this bulb accesses an unseen power. It makes no difference. I cannot see electricity. I do not have to believe in electricity. I just have to let this, if I want this light, I plug it in and turn it on. But see, that's the thing about this light bulb. That's the thing about this spiritual power within us. We all have it, but how do we access it? Well, the flow of this power, the way that it flows, has three things that really affect it, and that's what I want to share with you today. One's the capacity to receive. How much receptivity? See, if I have this bulb, I get a certain light. If I have a bigger bulb, I get a different light. The capacity to receive. And the other one is this wire. The wire's got to be big enough to give it the power. Let the power flow. The conduit. How we do that. And then the major thing, one of the biggest things, I have to make a choice, a decision to access that power and change this light. I have to make a decision and take an action. So that's what I have to have. So three things: the capacity, the conduit, and the decision and action. And that's what I have to do. So the spiritual power within each one of us, our capacity is greatly influenced by prayer. Prayer keeps enlarging our capacity of our soul and our very being to receive these free and wonderful gifts from our infinite source. It keeps, that prayer gives us capacity. Meditation opens a conduit, gives us the path to let it flow, gives us that path. And our willingness, our own willingness, the only thing that can block this from flowing inside of us is our self-centeredness, our self-will, self-righteousness, this thing that I am in charge, I control things, I own this is mine, it's my right, my responsibility. No. When we get ourselves out of the way, we are the switch. We are the valve that opens the flow of the power. Our self-will has to be gotten out of the way. We have to surrender and let go. We are not God. We are not in control of all these things. In fact, there's very few things we can control. But we can control this flow of energy within us. We can open up all this, and it just simply flows when we do it. I want to share with you a thought that, we have these three things, but also I read a lot of books, and I want to share with you one that has become very important to me, because especially now that we're going through these times, but it's something I've used for many years. It's from the Urantia book. And it says, to a God-knowing kingdom believer, what does it matter if all things earthly crash? Temporal securities are vulnerable, but spiritual sureties are impregnable. When the flood tides of human adversity, selfishness, cruelty, malice, hate, fear, consequences of our own poor decisions beat about the mortal soul, you can rest in the assurance that there's one inner bastion the citadel of the Spirit that's absolutely unassailable. At least this is true for any mortal who is dedicated to keeping of their soul to the indwelling Spirit of the eternal God. After such spiritual attainment, whether achieved by gradual growth or specific crisis, there occurs a new orientation of the personality, the development of a new standard of values. We change. Such a spirit-born individual is so remotivated in life that they can calmly stand by while their fondest ambitions perish and their keenest hopes crash. For they positively know that such catastrophes are but the redirecting cataclysms that wreck one's temporal creations, preliminary to building of a more noble and enduring level of spiritual attainment. Every adversity we have, everything we go through can be used as a stepping stone to build something better, to build a new life, to open this wonderful channel. So I say that's the thing that blindness and going through that loss of my cornea has taught me. Any experience we go through, we can use it to help us shift, to find out what's really important in life. We can use it to redefine our values, our priorities, what is really important to us. We can use it as something positive, or we can let it destroy us. It's all within our power of choice. But we not only have to make the choice, then we have to take the action. A choice is great, but it's only a starting point, and it is not worth anything unless we act. And the action to achieve this powerful transformation, once we surrender and make the choice that we want it, are really that simple. It's prayer and meditation. And we'll talk more about prayer and some other things. And we've talked a lot. I have some nice, quiet, peaceful meditations out there on YouTube. And we'll talk more about prayer, what prayer really works. Because see, as I said in that, when I was going through that with my eyes, as long as I'm giving God directions on what I want, making my wish list for Santa Claus, ain't going to happen. But when I become receptive and willing to realign my will with the universe law, God's will, whatever it is, and ask for help in doing that, I get results. That's all we have to do. Prayer and meditation, and become willing. Surrender. Namaste.